Check on two. The song's called Quick Fix. I started playing piano when I was about 14, and I got into Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, guys like that. I saw a movie, Great Balls of Fire, about Jerry Lee Lewis, and I really got inspired by it, silly as that may sound. And I just started kind of trying to play those licks on the piano, and I ended up joining up with a high school band, playing piano, and was getting more kind of into wanting to play guitar because I'd hear the guitar player playing all the time, and I'd get kind of jealous and being able to bend notes and all that. And I was starting to get into, blues guitar players more, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, stuff like that. And when I was just getting out of high school, I ended up joining up with a guy named Luther Guitar Jr. Johnson on piano, and he brought me all over the world, and so I was with him for about 6 years. And about that time is when I started playing guitar too, because I got inspired by him, and got to play with Ronnie Earl for a while, equally inspiring, and then joined up with Roomful of Blues, and that was it. And then after that, kind of got my start with my own band.
Getting the gig with Luther was obviously a pretty big deal at that age, I have to imagine.
Yes.
How did that come about anyway? How did you get that gig?
Well, I was in a house band at a jam up in New Hampshire in Antrim at a place called the Rhineborn, and Luther had moved very close to that area. He really liked it there, he liked the atmosphere, he liked the people, and so I was playing with a band called Otis and the Elevators, and just at the jam every Thursday, and Luther's keyboard player split and moved back to the West Coast, and I just was kind of at the right place at the right time, and he took me under his wing. Really, B.B. King was probably my biggest, if not influence, inspiration. I loved the power behind what he was playing, and how he wasn't playing sad and sappy all the time, and he wasn't. A lot of my friends were into, Stevie Ray and Hendrix, and I liked that stuff, but it was always a little aggressive for my taste, a little raunchy. I mean, I dug it, but BB was so sweet and powerful at the same time. It was just very, very inspiring. And it wasn't until I was about halfway through my tenure with Roomful that I finally just said, you know what, I just gotta go for it and stop doing this generic band name and this kind of ambiguous, oh, I'm with so-and-so and whatever, and just say, for better or for worse, let's start the Travis Colby Band and just put all the eggs in that basket and go for it and just write songs exclusively for that. So it's been slowly dipping into it for a long time, I guess you could say. I mean, it's always been based around blues, but at the same time, because I've been playing blues for so long, I wanted a little bit of a departure, and one area that I felt like a lot of the bands that I've been in have not delved into as much has always been funk, which has always been a big, favorite of mine. And so I definitely wanted to be more on the funky side of blues. I have a lot of other influences too. I mean, I I like, you know, fish and like stuff like that. So I kind of like a little bit of the jam element as well. So that is definitely in there too.
Unlike a lot of guys, you pick with your fingers pretty much exclusively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you develop that technique?
That's good question. You know, the first couple times I messed around on a guitar, I didn't have a pick, and I just found the notes that way, and I got used to the feeling of it. And then the further along that I went, I would try to use a pick, and it's just it was a lot harder for me to do it because I was so not used to it, and even when I would do it, it would sound so different than what I was used to, that I just never did it. So it's not. Sometimes I wish I did use a pick for certain things because there's certain things you can't do. Or I can't do without it. Certain like double picking, really, you know, it's like it's really hard to do that without a pick because that's almost more a motion like this, where almost all my motion is coming from my thumb. Like probably 90% is from my thumb, and then I plunk with my finger for a couple things. So it's hard to do, you know. So there's little things, and obviously there's probably like a lot of like, you know, speed metal stuff that I could never do. But I'm not really into that stuff anyway, so it all kind of works out. So that's the story behind that. Both of my albums have been all original songs and a medley of different influences, and I want to get a little bit more kind of focused in maybe one style on the next one, like doing like an entire blues record or do an entire just piano record or even entire solo acoustic, you know, something that's a little bit more streamlined and exclusive and not so much like, I think there's a tendency for younger bands and first records to try to do everything that they like and show how diverse you are or feel it at least, and then later on you start wanting to kind of get a little bit more, I don't know, focused, I guess would be the word for it. We shouldn't be discouraged because there's something new coming up. We just haven't quite figured it out yet. And a lot of younger kids are figuring it out in this new climate that we have. They're not discouraged because they don't have the old stuff to compare it to as much. The older guys have it used to be so much better. And the younger guys are like, well, I've heard that, but I don't have any reference for it, so let's just full steam ahead with what we got.
If you could open for anyone, who would it be?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Oh God, I would almost say, you know, retroactively, I guess, because BB was always such a big influence, you know. But I have opened for him, so I don't think that's allowed. A fantasy opening slot.
So you would have liked to do it again?
Yeah. I mean, you know, definitely. That's a really good question. You know, it's tough because I have so many different influences that, you know, part of me would say, oh, I'd love to open for Herbie Hancock, and then another part of me would say I'd like to open for Buddy Guy, and then, you know, it's like I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. If that's all right.
Okay.